2, Chapter 11 of the late Mr. Jonathan Wild the Great. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Dennis Sayers. The late Mr. Jonathan Wild the Great by Henry Fieldin. Book 2, Chapter 11 The Great and Wonderful Behavior of Our Hero in the Boat. It is probable that a desire of ingratiating himself with his charming captive, or rather conqueror, had no little share in promoting this extraordinary act of illegal justice; for the Frenchman had conceived the same sort of passion or hunger which Wild himself had felt, and was almost as much resolved, by some means or other, to satisfy it. We will leave him, however, at present in the pursuit of his wishes, and attend our hero in his boat, since it is in circumstances of distress that true greatness appears most wonderful. For that a prince in the midst of his courtiers, all ready to compliment him with his favourite character or title, and indeed with everything else, or that a conqueror at the head of 100,000 men, all prepared to execute his will, how ambitious, wanton, or cruel soever, should, in the giddiness of their pride, elevate themselves many degrees above those their tools, seems not difficult to be imagined, or indeed accounted for. But that a man in chains, in prison, nay, in the vilest dungeon, should, with persevering pride and obstinate dignity, discover that vast superiority in his own nature over the rest of mankind, who to a vulgar eye seem much happier than himself; nay, that he should discover heaven and providence, whose peculiar care, it seems, he is, at that very time, at work for him. This is among the arcana of greatness, to be perfectly understood only by an adept in that science. What could be imagined more miserable than the situation of our hero at this season, floating in a little boat on the open seas, without oar, without sail, and at the mercy of the first wave to overwhelm him? Nay, this was indeed the fair side of his fortune, as it was a much more eligible fate than that alternative which threatened him with almost unavoidable certainty, viz., starving with hunger, the sure consequence of a continuance of the calm. Our hero, finding himself in this condition, began to ejaculate a round of blasphemies, which the reader, without being over pious, might be offended at seeing repeated. He then accused the whole female sex, and the passion of love, as he called it, particularly that which he bore to Mrs. Heartfree, as the unhappy occasion of his present sufferings. At length, finding himself descending too much into the language of meanness and complaint, he stopped short, and after broke forth as follows: D in it, a man can die but once. What signifies it? Every man must die, and when it is over, it is over. I never was afraid of anything yet, nor I won't begin now. No in me, won't I? What signifies fear? I shall die whether I am afraid or no. Who's afraid then, in me? At which words he looked extremely fierce, but, recollecting that no one was present to see him, he relaxed a little the terror on his countenance, and, pausing a while, repeated the word in. Suppose I should be in at last, cries he, when I never thought a syllable of the matter. I have often laughed and made a jest about it, and yet it may be so, for anything which I know to the contrary. If there should be another world, it will go hard with me, that is certain. I shall never escape for what I have done to Heartfree, the devil must have me for that undoubtedly. The devil! Pshaw! I am not such a fool to be frightened at him neither. No, no, when a man's dead there's an end of him. I wish I was certainly satisfied of it though, for there are some men of learning, as I have heard, of a different opinion. It is but a bad chance, methinks, I stand. If there be no other world, why, I shall be in no worse condition than a block or a stone. But if there should, d in me, I will think no longer about it. Let a pack of cowardly rascals be afraid of death. I dare look him in the face. But shall I stay and be starved? No. I will eat up the biscuits the French son of a whore bestowed on me, and then leap into the sea for drink, since the unconscionable dog hath not allowed me a single dram. Having thus said, he proceeded immediately to put his purpose in execution, and, as his resolution never failed him, he had no sooner dispatched the small quantity of provision which his enemy had with no vast liberality presented him, than he cast himself headlong into the sea. End of Book 2, Chapter 11. Read by Dennis Sayers in Modesto, California, for LibriVox.